Hello, welcome to Quackalope. Thank you for being here. Today we're bringing you our top 10 war games of all time. And no, this is not a Quackalope list. Instead, I had to bring down the experts from Legendary Tactics. I'll leave a link to their YouTube channel in the comment section down below. You're at 17,000 subscribers.
Yeah.
And you all do a lot of deep dive strategy guides, partially in this genre of gaming.
Yes.
So if people are tuning in here, they should not stay at Quackalope. You should follow over and check these guys out.
The water's nice.
You're down here hanging out. We're playing some good games. We're doing your personal top 10 list. We're diving into Root. We're teaching you how to play Bus.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. Looking forward to it.
Far.
Which is great. It's been a good start to the night. And now I get the chance to take a step back and learn some things. So introduce yourself. Introduce what your channel is, what you guys do, and then let's start talking about war games.
All right. Well, we're Legendary Tactics. I'm NATO.
I'm Cax.
And we have been a channel for the last almost coming up on 3 years now.
3 years, yes.
And
a bunch of best friends that were like, what do we do now that the world's
yes, now that we're in lockdown, what do we do? Yeah. And anyway, we started the channel. We got into various board games. We cover a pretty wide range, even from the kind of the Monopolies and Unos of the world all the way up to some of the old classic Avalon Hill titles, and really
we like to do playthroughs, strat guides, reviews, unboxing. So we do it all. We try to cover every little aspect.
Yeah, very cool. Very cool. And some weird videos as well. Like I think the first video that I was on over on your channel was the question of what 5 games would I bring on a spaceship to Mars?
Oh yes.
Without gravity being enabled.
Yeah, that's right.
It's a very complicated question.
Yes.
So, what defines a war game? What are we talking about when it comes to this genre of gaming? Because I have theories, but I don't even fully know. What were the parameters for this list?
For me, I think obviously there has to be conflict involved, and typically military-based conflict.
Not just emotional.
Not just emotional, but not just political. Like, for example, Twilight Struggle was proposed. We were in our discussions. But I said, if you actually start a war in Twilight Struggle, you lose the game. So it's
we actually
really
voted that one off the list.
Yeah,
because that would have been
a political game, a political.
And
conflict.
One of your favorites, I know.
One of our favorites, top 5 for me for sure, all time.
Yeah,
so
such a great game. But it has to involve actual sort of conflict. Generally speaking, controlling territory, that kind of idea, and that's the basic parameters, I guess I would say. But within that framework, though, there's a lot of variety. There's a lot of different directions that that can go, and so I think we've covered a pretty broad kind of swath of games that we can present to you and give you some great ideas on
across decades too. Like we were all over the place here. So
all right. So let's dive in. Let's start talking about the top 10 war games of all time.
All right.
Starting with not a game that's on the list.
That's right. Yes. We're going to start with a little honorable mention.
Yeah. What's going on? We're already breaking the rules.
I know. We started with War of the Ring. Yeah. And as an honorable mention, we had to throw it in there. I have a very good feeling about this game. I am pretty sure that when I finally fire it up, it is going to be. It's been on our shelf. It's been on our to-play list.
Yes.
And we've read nothing but great things about it.
Sure.
And we really want to get I really want to get my teeth into this game, and I'm really excited to try it out. And I've seen nothing but good, positive vibes.
And you're under the impression that this will compete for a spot in the top 10 based off the reviews and the commentary.
Yes.
But it's an honorable mention because you think it deserves to be here.
Yes.
But you can't put it here.
I can't verify it
because you haven't personally played it yet.
That's right. So I do really, really want to play this one, and I had to mention it.
Yeah. So
because I'm also a huge Rings fan. So just for that theme.
So this
theme alone, I'm already in.
Retain our dignity. Because someone's going to be in the comment section being like, how dare you not talk about...
That's right. That's exactly it.
My top 10 for 2022 had the caveat that I hadn't played ISS Vanguard yet.
Okay.
And I even still had like 12 people in the comments that were like,
still didn't avoid
hey, I don't know if you missed this, but ISS Vanguard showed up. And I'm like, no, you just listen. Come on. I know. Okay.
All right, so now the real list.
So now we start with 10.
All right.
That's right.
Or at least we did 2 lists of 5 to be accurate. So
Yes.
We're going to go back and forth.
We're going to split back and forth. We're going to chat here.
Yeah.
Wings of War. Never heard of this game before.
Yeah. So
What's going on here?
This one here is a tactical level. It's a miniature game. And I love a lot of the aspects of this game. One of them is that there is no real game board. You literally set up on the floor.
Yeah?
And you start moving your planes around.
Already looks so cool.
Yeah. And you have directional arrows that you'll take to attack.
You choose your maneuvers.
Choose your maneuver. Yep.
Yeah.
To go after the guy. You actually measure there's like a little measuring stick when you get within range of attack that you get to use. So it's very hands-on. It's all kind of the fun toys of getting
it's kind of based in the classic miniatures style gaming, right? Which is typically without a board or whatever.
Yeah, you're popping something down into a terrain, you're maneuvering and trying to like position. Yeah. Now, it reminds me, there's a Star Wars game, X-Wing.
That's exactly what it's in.
Feels familiar to.
Yes,
that is Star Wars X-Wing reskinned.
Interesting.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And a little fun fact about it too, it's a 1 to 200 scale. So there's little miniatures that are actually 1 to 200 apparently. Yeah, little bills there. So it's kind of a neat part of the
But it's a really neat flow to it, and it's simple enough. I think it's one of the more accessible war games out there that you can introduce the concept to people and they can have a lot of fun.
I'm super excited about this list because I already want to play this.
I love it.
Like Shira's gonna go ham over this list. This is like her genre of games.
Nice.
Number 9?
Well, number 5 on my list, but yeah, go
ahead. Number 9 on the overall.
Let's go number 9. All right. Now we're going to go from the beginner style war games to something
dive right in. Sink your teeth into it.
In depth. So D-Day at Omaha Beach. Now this game...
Is this like a real war photo?
It's a painting.
Is it a painting?
It's probably based on the.
I mean, it looks like a straight out vignette washed.
Yes. So
tell me about this. What's going on?
This is by Decision Games, if I'm not mistaken, and this is more of a real like classic war game in a sense. And it's a solitaire game, so you're playing against the system. You're the
solo only,
but you can play 2-player cooperatively and work together. You're invading on D-Day, Omaha Beach, and you have to land your troops there. You have to clear the obstacles. You have to get up onto the cliffs, and it is really, really hard.
Yeah,
it is really challenging. It's not complex, like especially the way some games in the genre have really escalated the complexity level. But it's very playable, and you'll see the map. It's got this weird sort of almost Skittle kind of look to it, where it looks like someone's dropped some candies on it. But that's the way they represent the field of fire and line of sight. So, for example, if you are in a spot with the red, then that means the red gun can shoot at you, and you can see the red gun to shoot back.
Sure. Reminds me of, not Unsettled, I'm thinking of, there's a combat game, Unmatched or something, where they use color to designate the different types of targets that you can have.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And so this says the blue gun can shoot at you. The white circle means it's very weak, though. So it's probably not going to do any damage. This means moderate fire. And then the fully colored circles, that's intense fire. So that's where... So you're trying to navigate through the fire lanes to get up and onto the cliffs, and it actually plays out in 2 parts. The first part is actually the invasion of the beach. Okay. Once you take control of the beach, then it opens up a second half to the game where you are actually having to make your way inland.
Now, is the AI, the system here, responsive enough that it's an interesting play every time you sit down and dive into it?
They have said I haven't managed to make it to the second half of the game.
Oh, really?
I played it once, but just I got lost very badly. But the AI is actually the commentary on it is that it is eerily responsive, almost like you're playing against a human player.
That's neat.
It's just the way but it's simple to implement.
Cool.
And a lot of just card turning and reading and this would happen. Anyway,
it looks intimidating, but it looks very interesting.
But it looks intimidating. It's actually more playable than it looks, but it is a challenge. If you want a real challenge, like how am I gonna? It's puzzling.
A lot of wargamers, especially people that are going to be attracted to a solitaire experience.
Yes.
That is what they're looking for,
and it is
not
one of the best
rules
I've played.
heavy. But strategy heavy,
yes,
right?
Yeah. Yes, and it's a brain burner. You're going to be trying to figure out how to use your resources well. It's good.
Number 8,
and we've got Blood Rage. And I tell you, if you like
I know
miniatures-
this one.
Do you know it?
Personal collection.
Nice. Oh, I think I did see it
Beautiful
down
game.
there. Isn't it awesome?
Amazing game.
Yeah, the miniatures,
Yeah.
Ragnarok, the whole battle for Ragnarok going on.
Battle for Ragnarok.
Yes. You've got the sea battles.
Yeah.
The drafting mechanic, I love in it. So there's just a lot to enjoy about this game, and the Norse, kind of that Norse theme too, thematically, is on point for me.
This is one of those games that has drafting is one of my favorite systems, and in a area control war-based game, a combat-focused game, having a drafting mechanic that is so satisfying, is one of the things that just screams at me when it comes to Blood Rage.
Yeah.
You sit down and you start passing these cards around, and you just depending on the strategy that you're going for, there's always something that you want to hold on to.
Yeah.
There's always something you desperately don't want other people around the table to hold on to.
Yes.
And so you have that conflict is warring in your brain the entire time. And then the results of that conflict are exhibited down here on the tableau, right? So you're controlling regions, scoring points, dealing with the fact that different areas are being destroyed, summoning giant creatures and monsters like Simon does, out of this world. And then on top of that, you're potentially also wiping your own forces out in a glorious attempt.
That's right. And up to the Valhalla and getting points for that.
As much prosper as possible.
That's right. Yeah, so it's just a really, really addictive game.
Yeah. Blood Rage is great. I want to say it was either number 3 or 4 of my all-time.
Oh, come on! Nice!
No, I haven't done... It's been about a year and a half or so since I've done an all-time list.
Okay.
The reason being is because my list, I don't think, had changed enough in 1 year to justify redoing it.
Okay.
That being said, there's some things inching on it.
Yeah, so stay tuned. Stay tuned.
Okay. All right, Blood Rage.
Yeah. All right.
Thunderbolt Apache Leader.
Yes. By DVG Danverson Games.
The close air support solitaire game. Are you primarily a solitaire player?
Well, finding opponents
in this genre
for war games can be tough.
No one's good enough to beat you.
There is that.
Well, I mean, Cax here is my usual opponent, but if he is unavailable...
We've actually played this together cooperatively.
Yeah, you can play cooperatively.
And that was fun.
But what's really neat about this game is you are given a lot of choice.
Okay.
And so you're basically, there's kind of two kind of parts to the game, I'll say. There's one part which is kind of the big picture where there's columns advancing on your position, and you have points to spend, and you buy a certain aircraft, helicopters, and you have to buy all the weapons, and you have all the different choices of bombs or missiles or whatever it is that you think is going to be the best for the mission. And the ones that are great might be more expensive or heavier, and the ones that are maybe not as good, they're cheap, but maybe they're light, but they're not that useful.
Yeah.
And so, once you've got everything together, you assign your pilots, and then you send them onto a modular battle board that changes every time, and then you fly around. You have to, blow up the targets, and basically whatever the mission of your that particular mission is, you have to make it happen. And it's especially compelling to play as a campaign game, and not in the sense of like a Frosthaven where there's scenario after scenario, but there's mission after mission.
Okay.
And your pilots either get wounded or stressed out or whatever, and so you've got to manage.
You've invested in not only like resources and the equipment you have, but also the pilots that you have that are going out to.
And sometimes you got to send aircraft that's been damaged. Like you have to. There's no time to fix it. You got to get it back up in the air.
Yeah.
Or you got to take equipment off another, chopper.
Cool.
Throw it onto one. Hopefully, get it, flight worthy, and
bootstrap it on and hope that it can still fire.
And you got to try and get all these missions done to win the game, and it's really, really fun because again, there's so many decision points.
Yeah.
That with every part of the game, you have to make decisions about which pilot to put in which aircraft, who's stressed out. Do you risk the guy who's stressed out? What weapons do you load on? And then you fly around and you have to choose, who do we attack first and all that. It's a great game. It's a lot of fun.
This was one that you and I had words over. Who's going to actually get to claim it. So
this was one of his favorites.
This was on my list too, but NATO has played more of it, so I deferred.
I love it. That's awesome. Yeah. All right, it's like number 6 or something? We're moving
something
down. Something like that. PanzerBlitz. Yes. I just learned a bit about this. Why is the text popping up? I just learned a bit about this because this was also insisted upon being in the top 10.
Yes.
Yes, it was.
Right? This is one that the group is passionate about.
Yes.
What's going on here? What is PanzerBlitz?
Coming to you from 1970.
Holy cow.
PanzerBlitz is a game of Russia versus Germany, World War II.
Okay.
It is on the Russian front. There's 12 scenarios that you can work through.
Yeah.
And it's just it's the way there's 3 big battle boards that you construct in different configurations, and it's just a really, really interesting, and I've been really enjoying it. It's Hex Encounter, and it's really my first real go through of Hex Encounter that I've really dived into with any degree.
Yeah.
And it's been pretty fun. It's been pretty fun. It's been a pretty neat kind of experience.
What is it about? Because you're talking an era of gaming that has, like, our industry has in some ways left behind.
Yes, very much. So.
What is it about this that's still keeping it as something that, like, you have a plethora of war games in front of you, and you guys are picking this up and you're going, hey, there's something here that is scratching an itch that nothing at the moment is quite hitting. Like, what is it about this that's doing that?
I think one thing would be nostalgia.
Yeah, sure.
Kind of harkening back to childhood and looking back at that and saying, oh yeah, the games like that, and because even for me, I just learned this, but it just a floodgate of memories.
Yeah, and I played games like this. I didn't play this one when I was younger, but I played a lot of games like it. Yeah. So for me, it's a joy to actually try this classic out. But for me, it's surprisingly fast and furious. Like it's not one where you're bogged down in rules constantly.
Yeah, and there's only 10 rounds.
Yeah,
and 10 rounds that go quick.
Yeah,
so it goes pretty quick.
So you get through a few sessions of it and sit down and get pissed off at your friend. And
It's really and again, it may be an older game system, but it doesn't mean it's not fun.
I'm super excited about you. I mean, I'm so interested in this title now that your group is just standing for it.
Yes.
Constantly.
Yes.
Yeah. It has me very intrigued.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Sweet. Now, are there updated versions of it, or is it still the classic version that you're playing?
They did do a second.
There was a series of games. So the first one that came out was PanzerBlitz in 70, and then in 74, I think it was, they released Panzer Libre, which was more streamlined.
Okay.
They added some chrome, but it was more streamlined kind of version.
But like, are you guys buying and playing the
original
copy?
I tracked down the original copies.
Yes.
Then there's a third one, which is Arab-Israeli Wars, which is based on the conflicts that happened in the 70s.
Like the 6 Day War or the Yom Kippur War?
That kind of
6 Day was it was 60s. It was late 60s.
It would have been based on that.
I'm just now finishing a book on the Israeli, where basically the entire Arab nation, Egypt being the head of it, thought we could wipe them out.
Yeah, and they learned very quickly, 6 days, that's not going to happen.
Wow.
It's remarkable.
Yeah. So it looks at that conflict, but it's the same system, and then they kind of ended it there, but then it progressed into other systems to become eventually things like Advanced Squad Leader and stuff.
Now, when playing games like that have some sort of tie to history, right? Because history is a very storied, very tenuous thing. Do you find that you like playing in the realm of accurate history, or do you find that you like playing in something that maybe fantasizes it a little bit more, or allows for it to be disconnected from what actually happened in real world events?
Yeah. Well, I don't know.
For me, I really enjoy the narrative-driven. I'm a student of history. I'm a historian, some of my schooling, and I really love the idea of the revisionist history, where you can take
what if United States had sided with Germany? And
what if the events of history fell in a different order?
What if Pearl Harbor never happened?
Yes.
Yeah, and
those
America
kinds of things.
Just decided to
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Or what would have happened if it happened after 3 years later?
Sure.
Yeah. Or 3 years earlier.
Yeah.
So all those kinds of questions of what is
like
history.
Korea had won.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
One more.
Yeah.
But I agree. I find those questions fascinating because they, looking back at history is one of the ways that you learn to not repeat lessons of the past, right? That's what you always get taught. And being able to ask the questions, especially like through some of the games that you play, of what would have what could have the world been like?
Yes,
exactly.
Positive or negative. What were the benefits? What were the consequences of any of these little things, these little moments changing?
Yeah.
And then also I understand the people that are like, I don't really want to play through a textbook.
Yeah,
that's true.
yeah,
too.
Like they did an
History
alien
textbook.
ship descending upon Earth and just pretend
Let's just play
like,
Cosmic Encounter.
Yes. No, but that's actually a great segue into my next pick, actually, which is No Retreat, the Russian Front.
The Russian Front.
Now, talking about history, now again, this is more of a big picture invasion of Russia from World War II, kind of, because PanzerBlitz is much more on the kind of the tactical level.
Sure.
This is the strategic level. But what I really love about this game is it puts you in the shoes of the two different sides, and essentially, but then it leaves you to play that out.
Yeah.
And just to follow on what we were talking about a minute ago, what I love is games that put you in the shoes of the people involved, and then you end up making the same decisions that they did, not because the game forced you down this narrative path, but because it was the best decision based on
it's the
that
decision
moment.
to make with the information that you have.
And that just I just find that so informative
interesting.
and interesting and compelling.
Well, and part of the history of wargaming is actual war.
Mm-hmm.
Like wargaming in application when it comes to like generals sitting around a table looking at a map in front of them and moving pieces on that board, that is in itself a war game, in real life, right?
Yes.
Sometimes the information you have sitting in front of you is more information than they have when they're making tactical decisions with real human life on a real battlefield.
Yes.
So it's really interesting to see that mirrored and to see that echo.
Now, what made this game unique was very low counter density, is what they call it.
Okay.
I think the German side maybe has 40 pieces grand total, and the Russian is like they're not stacked, so you have to use like tweezers or anything. It's all boiled down, very, most spaces there's only one piece, so it has this kind of scaled down feel to it, but it still represents what happens extraordinarily well. Yeah. And as I said, it really puts you in that position, and you make those decisions based on what is the best play at that moment. And there's a little bit of I would say this is more of a medium complexity, maybe medium to high. It's not necessarily really easy to learn. There's lots of sort of exceptions and finicky rules, but once the main flow of the game is actually really smooth. Okay. And what is also unique about this is you have the attacks going on, but they also give you a hand of cards that you can play for events to change the battle. Cool. And that hand of cards is also your currency to buy replacement units or buy reinforcements as well. So you have that interplay. Well, I can help out this battle, but I really need that card because I need to get that reinforcement back in play. And so it puts you in those kind of tough decision spaces from a game perspective. Yeah. Which is really fun. So it adds the cards add another layer of decision making that I find really great about this game. It's Carl Paradis, Canadian, also went on to do. He's doing 5, and he's done 4 of them so far. Okay, this was his first one, and I think it's the easiest to get into, and so forth. The other ones sometimes a couple of them get really in depth and a little bit more hardcore, but this one is actually quite accessible.
Very interesting. Now, can you retreat?
No.
There is no retreat.
Absolutely not.
None.
We're going to shift the gaze to Cuba.
Castro's Insurgency, 1957 to 1958.
So this is part of the Coin series.
Yeah.
A GMT, what they've been working through.
Now explain what a coin game is.
So it's an asymmetrical...
Well, Coin is for counterinsurgency. It's a short form for that.
Which is an asymmetrically set up with there's 4 factions, and each with different winning conditions and turn options. And so what you're doing here is you're fighting for Cuba, basically, and your own and to satisfy your own winning conditions. I have a soft spot in this game because one of the factions is the July 26th movement, which is my birthday. So when I was looking at the coin series, I was like, well, there's only one option. I have to take Cuba Libre. It's going to be a coin game. Yeah. It's going to be Cuba. Nate, you came across a saying about this game, though. It's like a knife fight in a phone booth.
Yeah.
because things are so tight, right? There's no space, and there's 4 factions all battling it out. So and
stabbing.
It is just going. It's going haywire. Yeah. So it's been.
There's 9 spaces on the board, and you're fitting.
And there's 4
factions in there.
That actually sounds pretty cool.
Yeah. So it's a lot of fun.
And there's lots of negotiation. You got to sometimes make alliances, short-lived alliances to just get something done that you need done, and then in the next turn you're bitter enemies and you're turning on them, and
so backstabbing and alliances.
Now, for people that are interested and have enjoyed Root, oftentimes some of those factions are described as coin factions.
Yes.
Built off of that similar system. So this might be something. This might be the next step for some people that are really enjoying.
Yes. And Nate, what are they at for coin numbers now? They have.
They're up to 10.
Yeah, so there's 10 different coin games in the series. So this is just one of 10, and
so depending on the theme and the conflict that you're interested in, they
cover a wide range globally too.
This looks really cool, and it looks really pretty as well, which is something that you don't always see.
Now,
scrolling to
it happens to be another coin
Fire
game
in the Lake.
for my pick for
Insurgency,
my number 2. Now, this one was put together by 2 giants in the industry. Mark Herman, who's been around as a designer for at least 40 years, making games, and Volko Rumke, who designed the original Andean Abyss, which was the original coin game. This is their epic Vietnam, the simulation of Vietnam. And again, what I like about this is probably the biggest in terms of scale and scope, but it remains playable. It's actually really neat, and it gives you a really neat perspective on all the stuff that went on during that period of time in Vietnamese history, American history, and gives you a real sense of what it was like to, as all sides, to try and run an insurgency, and you have guerrillas in the jungle, and the Americans are really powerful, but they're kind of limited in what they can do.
It's the perfect war to have all these different asymmetric factions as well, because the approach to warfare and the struggle for the countries that were involved
so radically different,
completely different. Yes. Whereas you look at more classic World War I, World War II, a lot of your stuff is going to be very similar, lines of trenches and people
heads up
towards each other, right? Even you get back to Civil War and stuff, you got fields of people marching across, right?
Yeah, there is no front line in Vietnam. It was a mess. And the other thing that's great is you've got 2 factions that are kind of aligned. You've got the U.S. forces and the Vietnamese puppet government, the ARVN. Yeah. And they are generally on the same page, but they've kind of got conflicting goals. So one would say it's like a marriage of inconvenience, okay? And the same thing on the Vietnamese side, you have the Viet Cong and you have the NVA, the North Vietnamese Army, that are kind of similar goals, except they're not exactly aligned. So there's general alliances, but you also get in each other's way as well. And so it has a really interesting dynamic, and that plays out also with the cards, which bring in a political side to the whole picture. So it's not just the conflict, but it's also the big picture, thing where you're trying to get aid, for to get through Congress or whatever, trying to make sure that you're managing the political angle of the war as well. So it's
seeing how the factions all kind of fit together in some kind of ways, right?
Yeah, it's fascinating.
And don't in others. Yeah, it's neat.
Yeah. Very cool. Moving on. So Ambush.
We're going to bump it up to 1980 now.
Solitaire Squad level World War II combat.
Was it 83?
France, 1944. I love the cover photo here.
It's fun. A classic.
It's fun. So this is another solo game.
Okay.
And what you're doing is very actually similar in a lot of ways to Thunderbolt Apache Leader. You start off by basically building your team of soldiers that you're going to send out on various missions.
Okay.
And you build everything from their combat strength to their ability to movement ability, and it's there's a whole table that you fill out, and then you actually go onto the map, and it's a square by square. It's almost like choose your own adventure. Yeah. And there's the this
this
chart
little sleeve thing
is like a flow chart.
You put in, so as you walk through across the map, you kind of slide the thing. It's very, they would probably handle this with an app now, but you slide the thing and it would go to, so I just entered hex A4, so you slide it across and then it tells you what happens.
It actually tells you to read a paragraph, actually. So you have to go to the manual and you read a paragraph. It'll say, here's what just happened to your characters, right?
You noticed a plane crashing off in the distance, so place a plane wreck in hex X10.
Sounds very cool.
Yeah, it's very neat. And so
you can definitely tell this came out at a time when Dungeons and Dragons was big.
Was burgeoning.
So it's like an adventure style war game.
Very much so.
It's
And you choose wherever you want to go on the map, but at your own peril. Every single square you have to test. That you go into.
And so there's a lot of tension. And the other part is after you play mission after mission, the soldiers actually begin to take on a personality of their own. And then, and there's actually some old articles from way back in the day where there are people talking about this, where they had a soldier through 8 missions. He always seemed to come through, and then they roll the dice and a sniper pops up dead. And you actually
feel sad.
A sense of loss. No, that was Corporal Smith.
It couldn't be him.
My guy.
8 missions.
And you stare down at the die roll, and this is a solitaire game. It's like, do I cheat? Do I just roll the dice? No one's watching me. I can just flip the dice to a 10 or whatever.
He's safe.
And he'll be safe. But, but instead
you actually struggle with that in a solo game, right?
Yeah.
So that's part of the reason I really like this game, because you actually become attached to these soldiers that you've built and have walked the line with you.
Yeah.
So, and there are expansions.
Yeah.
So there's Purple Heart, Silver Star, and Move Out.
Is that this next thing?
That's the
next one there. So
And then Battle Hymn came out. That was the Pacific
Do you guys
Theater.
have all these?
I have all 3 expansions.
Yeah, I have those 2.
Are they hard to get?
I was checking out different websites there for those
for them,
views.
okay.
I've been hunting.
They do have modules on Tabletop Simulator though, and stuff like that.
Yeah, I want
the same.
I know.
The hard copy. Yeah. And even using the little slide sheet is so cool. And you go to your little booklet, it's just
Man, I'm super intrigued.
The tactile of this game is really, really awesome.
You're introducing me to all these games that I have to play. Oh man, I should not have done this list. Now I have severe FOMO, because not only do I love weird, cool indie things, I also love things that are hard to get.
Yes.
Oh boy.
Well, I'll tell you, because you love narrative games, and this will be the series.
This is the one.
Because this tells you a story.
You would walk through, and you can play cooperatively. I played with my cousin.
We've played
cooperatively, where you each control half the squad, and you can play where you can only talk.
I'm gonna
when
have
you're
to
within
put,
earshot of each other.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to put some eBay notifications.
Let me know.
But just from a narrative standpoint, it's one of the best games.
That's the other reason I love this game, actually.
The real debate I have,
real story.
the moral debate I have nowadays, and I just recently did this. We just did top 10 drinking games because we played them all and then we ranked them. And one of them I went on eBay and purchased before publishing that video.
Oh, wow.
And the reason being is because I was concerned that the act of publishing the video would make the already limited game just now hard enough for me to find that I wouldn't be able to get it. I now morally have the same question here.
Do I pick it up before
I go hunting for ambush before releasing a video telling thousands of people to go hunting for ambush? And I don't know that I do. I don't know that I can justify it. I don't know that I personally have that free income, but I really want to.
And Battle Hymn is also very highly respected. It was on the Pacific, same idea, but on the Pacific. In the Pacific Theater.
Okay, so based on the same system.
Very similar, but very well respected in its own right.
Very cool.
So it was quite a big
These
deal.
Also, they look like they look like you're gonna get them by having enough cardboard cutouts from your cereal boxes, right? They fit the time period they're coming from so well.
Oh,
perfect. I love that.
It really takes you back. It's great.
To a time I never was.
Yes.
All right. What are we going to now?
All right. So the last one is a big classic. Again, one of the I guess arguably the ultimate classic war game, Squad Leader. And again, I don't know if you've heard of it?
No.
Okay, so this one came out actually in 77. And it's a very small scale war game, as you might expect from the title. You're at a squad level. But this was one of the first games that introduced the idea of morale. So in a lot of cases, in a lot of war games, you know, like a Blood Rage kind of thing, everyone dies. You know,
Sure.
it's just,
you're just fighting.
But in this case, what mostly happens is the effectiveness of the squad or the fighting force just. People, they get scared, they cower, they unable to do anything, and they're essentially, you know, useless as far as the conflict is concerned, unless a leader comes in and rallies them, gets them fired up again,
morale back up.
Which makes sense.
Yeah, so this was a unique game in the sense that it really brought to the forefront the human psychological aspect of warfare. Yes, you're shooting at each other, but a lot of times you don't need to kill the other guy necessarily. You just need to make them
scared enough
and cower, so then you can roll past them or whatever and shut them down.
Yeah.
So and sometimes you're not necessarily, again, you're not destroying them, but you're attacking them. They're cowering, and you hit them again. If you hit them hard enough, they all run away. And so it's a really neat system from that angle. Now this has sort of more of the stacks of counters and stuff, but it also introduced some neat concepts that hadn't been done in any large way before, like fire lanes. Like if you have a machine gun in a building and you're pointed down a street, crossing at any point along that street is probably going to be a risky proposition.
You've got to clean.
And so that they tried to emulate the tactics that you would likely use if you were
on squad, like on a squad level, very personal combat.
Yeah. So you need to set up kind of defensive, you know, mutually supporting positions, and then the other guys to try and find the weak spot and stuff like that.
This has been such a fascinating list.
Yes.
I'm intimidated by the fact that I don't know the vast majority of these, and also very excited to slowly start figuring it out and playing them, and telling you to bring like one at a time and start visiting me, right? Now I have a few questions.
Yes,
sure. That I want your first thoughts when I list these other games that I think might or arguably should be competitive here.
Okay.
And I'm wondering why they weren't, whether you haven't played them or like you discounted them because of theme or something like that, right? Or maybe they just weren't good enough.
Yeah.
Maybe they didn't make it.
Yeah.
Right.
So we're going to start Twilight Imperium.
I haven't played it.
Same.
Not played.
Not
Same.
played.
Very interesting.
Flash keeps promising to teach us. We have been begging him.
Okay.
And
we're hoping to get like a dedicated game day down here in Cleveland.
Nice.
So we'll let you know.
Yes.
TI. Love it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Any other like big space games? Would you have considered TI?
I would have considered
this?
Eclipse.
Okay.
On the list.
Okay.
But it's a war game, I guess, but it's also got that 4X.
So 4X is stepping away from war a little bit.
Yeah, I wasn't sure
because
whether
it's one category of the other elements that you're
it's like
exploring.
Space Empires 4X.
So I was going to ask.
Yeah.
Space Empires is the next one. Why is it not considered here? Because it was one of your favorite games this last year.
Again, I just didn't know if it felt as neatly into the category
of war
games.
Yes.
Now, because there you're managing an economy, you're gathering resources, there's much more that you're doing outside of just the direct combat. In fact, I played versions of SpaceX where our entire combat sequence boiled down to me floating secret bombs, right? That then got revealed, blew up his arsenal, and I ended up at his planet. Like that was the combat, right? Game over.
Right.
So not much war there. Hours of good gameplay, though.
Yes. Yeah, Space Empires 4X and Eclipse, from a certain angle, I could see them being categorized as.
But I also understand the concept of them not.
Space Empires is a lot more about building your fleet, though.
It is.
Yeah.
Right? That's probably the majority of that game.
It's an economy game at the heart of it.
Which is really amazing,
when you actually go to combat, you've spent hours preparing the right puzzle.
Man, 90% of the game.
And the combat is resolved and it's very satisfying, but it's not maybe the main focus.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Undaunted, the Undaunted series. There's been a lot of talk about the newest release.
Yes, I have not tried it yet.
Neither have I.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's
it's on my radar, but
one of those may be worth trying. I personally have not been sold on some of the earlier Undaunted.
Okay.
But I have been told this newest iteration
Normandy,
of it.
Is it?
I don't quite know the name, but the newest iteration, the late 2022 iteration of it, which I'm waiting to get a copy of, I have heard is excellent. Shut Up and Sit Down said it's the best war game they've played.
Yes.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
All right.
So one of those to put on the list. 3 games or 2 games that I'm going to hopefully teach you before you leave. Curious to see if you've played them. Caesar or Blitzkrieg.
I have not played either of those.
Clean little 2-player head-to-head war games.
Yeah.
No.
Very, very elegant.
Yes.
Very quick. They play in 20 minutes.
Yes.
Oh, great. Okay.
But they are probably some of the most accessible war games.
I've heard of Blitzkrieg, not about Caesar though.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Blitzkrieg.
I'm going to hopefully get you guys set up and teach you both of those.
That's awesome.
I'd love to try
I think
it.
they're
I've heard
ones
good
that are
things.
worth that. Yeah. And then the war game of war games, the war game everyone is familiar with, Root.
Oh boy, here we go.
Is Root a war game? Should it be on here?
Yeah, well, arguably it's based on the coin game system.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, so we had 2 of them.
Asymmetrical factions, and there is a lot of conflict, but there's a lot of other elements to Root, like
Absolutely.
The crafting and the
Every
the
faction has their own pathway towards it.
they
Right.
do. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I certainly the Irie, if that's how you say it properly.
Irie.
Irie.
I think you're actually right.
Yeah. They're more warlike in their approach, and the Marquise de Cat, I think as well. But Vagabond doesn't play like a war game,
typical war
type
game character. No.
And the Woodland Alliance is more like that insurgent kind of faction.
Yep.
But there's elements of conflict there. Root probably wouldn't make my top list. I like Root, but it's not my absolute favorite game.
Sure.
And
I'm the same ilk.
Yeah.
Yeah. It just didn't.
So it's adjacent. It's there.
Yes.
It's walking people into this side of things.
Yeah.
An argument could be made.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
And it's very cute.
Cool. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being here. Hopefully you've enjoyed this video. If you have other recommendations that didn't pop into the top of my head, leave them in the comment section down below. I'm sure these guys would love to check them out. I know personally this is a whole side of the hobby space that I have so much more exploration to do.
Awesome.
And again, if you've made it to this point, do not stay here at Quackalope. Swing over to these guys' channels, because the reality is, while I'm going to get a chance to play a lot of these and probably make a video on them, if you want consistent, supportive, dedicated content to a lot of these games and a lot of other games in our hobby space, Legendary Tactics are going to be the guys to go to. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. Whatever the case, whatever you do, remember to do the important thing.
Be kind.
Be kind. We'll see you next time.